Devin wipes away the mirror message. Lee says she's going to miss Akiza, she'd been a real friend since the beginning. Flygon tells Lee it's not cartoon best friend race, and Lee tells Flygon it's also not cartoon saboteur race either. Owen laughs, and Flygon tells Owen to put on deodorant. Owen tells Flygon she needs to get a win first.
Honestly, I'm sick of all these bitches aside from Keith and Shadow. Devin's delusional and petty. Owen's always got some backhanded compliment coming out of his mouth. Mondo acts like he's better than everyone. But worst of all is Flygon, actively confusing being honest with being a condescending bitch. Flygon doesn't have to worry about me thinking this is cartoon best friend race. But maybe she needs to get a clue, because name one winner aside from Queen of Hearts that doesn't know how to not come off as a massive bitch.
Mondo suggests the queens take a breather, he wants actual competition for the win today. Lee rolls her eyes. Keith asks Mondo who he thinks will be in the bottom today. Mondo refuses to say, and Keith asks if there's any reason.
Keith's going to be in the bottom today. He got his 15 minutes, it's his time. But I'm not going to say that, I just know he was fishing for me to say his name. But he's not getting that screen time from me.
I know Mondo's thinking I'll be in the bottom today, I just wanted to see if he'd admit it. I've got other things to worry about than if the other queens are doubting me. It's getting close to the point where you're either in the top or the bottom, and I still don't have a win yet. If I want to get to the finale, I need to get a win, and soon.
Shadow asks the queens who they think will win today's challenge. Lee says she's planning on her third win today, and she's not putting anything else out into the universe until Blanley gives it to someone else. Owen laughs. Owen says he thinks Mondo will win the challenge. Mondo thanks him, and says he thinks Owen's taking it. Flygon calls Mondo out for taking the easy way out, which Mondo replies that of course he would. The other queens laugh.
On one hand, these queens are afraid to say who they think will be in the bottom. On the other, they're complimenting their friends because it's the easy thing to do. Why aren't any of these queens stating the obvious on who will win the challenge? Me.
Flygon calls them all delusional for not saying she's winning the challenge. Keith reminds Flygon they don't like her, and Flygon says it's not an excuse. Keith rolls his eyes, and says he thinks Shadow's going to win the challenge. Shadow thanks Keith, and says he thinks it's going to Keith, and that Keith's hard work is starting to get recognition from Blanley. Devin agrees with Shadow, much to the surprise of the queens. Keith asks Devin if he's serious, and Devin says he thinks Keith's winning today's challenge. Lee points out Mondo didn't appear to like Devin's answer. Mondo starts to speak when
honestly tired of Lee. She's trying to call me out, but her canker sister fashion is only taking her so far. Although she was right, I didn't really agree with Devin's answer, but it's probably for the best. Devin is trying to make peace with Keith. I think Devin's second guessing himself since he had to lip sync. I do think Keith's not going to amount to much in this competition, but I'm all for Devin no longer distracting himself.
I've been rethinking some things after last week. Being in the bottom was a real eye-opener for me. I think I've been trying so hard to cling to the idea that I'm one of the top performers here. I needed desperately for someone to be behind me. But if I'm going to be honest, Keith had a fantastic snatch game. Even in my denial, I knew it, and I'm seeing Keith in a whole new light now. And I think he's a lot more of a competitor than even his friends may realize.
My queens, I always struggled in school, especially in my literature classes. It's a shame really, and I've always felt bad about it. But now I feel if I went back, I'd be top of my class. It's not because I've improved in any way, but because you bitches are just so easy to read.
Did the TV just call us dumb?
Hello queens. Communication in life is key. It's time for a test. I want to know if you can read. Because reading is fundamental. For that reason, the library is open. Up first, Keith.
Mondo Awada, you always manage to turn each theme into a biker look. Are you bringing a motorcycle to the finale?
If production will allow it.
Devin, you've been talking about being an expert racer. Where's that experience showing up in the challenges?
So the minute I start thinking you have actual talent is the minute you decide to start flopping challenges.
Ouch, that was a read.
Yes, gag that flop, Devin.
Keith's my friend, but these reads are bad.
Mondo Awada.
Let's leave the reads to the queens with actual talent. Keith. Flygon. You make me want to invest in more bug merchandise. Like the Flyswatter. Shadow. You truly are the ultimate life form. Of course, if by ultimate you mean always safe, and by life form you mean basic. You truly are the ultimate life form.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Mondo, you have a lot of nerve calling anyone basic when literally you reuse the same runway every week. Owen, I'd like to be the first to congratulate you on winning Total Drama Island. Sure, Gwen got the career, fame, popularity, and status. But at least you had money for 5 minutes.
Owen.
Lee, your makeup is like the sun. Blinding. Keith, I want to talk to you about personality. You need one.
Lee Kanker.
Garchomp, I mean ditto. Sorry, I know it. Chloe Bourgeois. Flygon, you act like you're being underestimated, but no one is underestimating you. We all know your talent is talking about all the talent you don't have. Devin, you don't need to worry about being on top since you're such a natural bottom. Mondo, you're so annoying. I can't stand your attitude, your taste, your personality. Unless you happen to ever end up single. Call me.
Devin.
Shadow, I would talk about how your performance this season was going, but judging by your relationship to Sonic, I think you're used to being left in the background. Flygon, why don't you make like a fly and buzz off? Owen, you and I have been friends for years. I would never say anything negative about you. I love you, and we'll be friends forever and always. And I would never do anything to embarrass you on this show. But please take a goddamn shower.
After hearing all these reads, I feel a bit disappointed. I guess someone has to show these girls what a read actually looks like.
Flygon.
Mondo Oada, the drag biker. You have such an energy to you. How do I describe it? Oh, of course, overcompensation. Owen, the physical embodiment of my favorite emoji. Shit. New Kronk. Wait, I mean Devon. Thank you for reminding us all that uniqueness isn't always a positive. Now why don't you make like old Kronk and shut the hell up? And finally Blanely.
Wait, is she actually going to read Blanely?
Who does a washed-up former celebrity manhunt host and the terrible total drama player have to sleep with in order to get her own cartoon drag race series? And if so, can you tell me because I want my own show too?
Hugh the Sniper. Thank you, queens. You are some nasty bitches. The winner of this week's mini challenge is Flygon. I respect the nerve. I'm still waiting for charisma, uniqueness and talent, but I like the nerve. Ladies, I must admit, I feel like some of you have managed to remain a mystery to me. Fortunately, I like a good mystery. So for today's challenge, I'd like you to tell me your story. That's why we're making books of your story. For your book, you are going to design the covers, and come up with the narrative your book will be about. What and how much you tell is entirely up to you. You will then be interviewed on the main stage by none other than Bill, where you will present your book. The design is important, but keep in mind the narrative and how this relates to you is even more important. Good luck, queens. And don't fuck it up.
Branding challenge. I've been in this business for a while, and I've learned a thing or two about branding. This is my challenge.
Owen begins vigorously writing things down in his notebook. Mondo asks Owen if he has an idea for his book already. Owen confirms he knows what he's doing. He mentions this challenge is about being honest and real while managing to tie that back to who you are now as a drag queen. Devin says that sounds simple enough. Mondo agrees, but Owen tells them they shouldn't assume it's easy. A big part is having a story you want to tell and people want to hear. Mondo tells Owen that he thinks Keith will have a problem then.
Keith may have gotten praise before for being able to do other people, or characters well. But it's the core dilemma of this show. How is anyone going to care about your story when you've got no personality? It's his time, he's going home.
While I don't think Keith's really got an entertaining personality, this is a story challenge. This is about your life story, and it is a mistake to assume Keith doesn't have a story worth telling.
Shadow asks Keith and Lee if they know what they'll be doing for the challenge. Lee says she's got a concept. something very dear to the Canker sisters.
Hello Lee, it's a pleasure to get this chance to talk to you.
The pleasure is all mine.
I've been curious to know, what's it like coming on this show knowing how Marie did? Does it make you nervous?
Being honest, I'm not that nervous. I love Marie, but she did really bad on her season.
She raised the bar, and came out of that season an icon.
She did, but she also is such an icon because she went on a streak of 4 weeks in the bottom. She's a great lip-syncer, but she wasn't winning that season. And I know, and everyone knows, there's nothing as good as Lee Canker. It's the fire competing against the sun, Bill.
Let's talk about your book. Here's the cover. It's titled, Canker, a story of hopeless romance. What is Canker about?
Canker is about my love life, and all my dating secrets. We Cankers are very much about romance, and if there's anyone you want dating advice from, it's someone who's never made it past the first date.
Well, thank you for being here, Lee. I will see you later on the main stage with Blanley.
Thank you, Bill. I think that went well. I answered all those questions truthfully, and gave the tea people want to read.
Now for my next guest. He's the Total Drama Island winner. It's Owen. How are you doing, Owen?
It's great to be here, Bill. Coming on this show has been such a journey for me since leaving the island. I always get nervous coming on these shows, because you never know how people are going to treat you. You ask yourself, am I just wasting my time and my money? And you think about the negative. So to get here, and to have received so much love and support from you and Blanley, I just want to thank you for having me here. I've had a lot of interviews over the years. The key is connecting to the host, and taking every opportunity to be real to who you are and how you feel.
It's been a pleasure having you. Blanley and I have been very impressed with you. Tell me, how would you say this competition compares to Total Drama Island?
Total Drama Island was really hard. I am an outgoing person. At least I try to be, but the island was always getting in the way of friendships. There was always suspicion in the air of every conversation. Will this person vote me out tonight? If we fail the challenge, will I be blamed for it? There's still an aura of that here, but at the same time it doesn't matter too much what the other queens think. It's what Blanley thinks of you that matters most, so it's easier to get past that and form deep connections. I've made some friendships I hope I'll keep outside of this show.
Let's discuss your book. It's titled, The Marshmallow. Love, Body, Food. Why don't you tell me what this book means to you?
This is the story of my journey on the island. My story of perseverance, being doubted because of my weight. It's a story about the importance of self-love, because everyone is on their own journey. And you need to stay true to who you are and what you believe, because that's how we are all winners.
Do you have any regrets from your time on the island?
Everything I did on the island led to me winning, so I choose to look forward.
Thank you, Owen. I'll see you later on the main stage.
Thank you for having me, Bill. It's been fun. I feel good about what I did.
Flygon and Keith are doing their makeup. Flygon tells Keith he's done a lot of damage to her image with his lies about her sabotaging Lance. Keith tells Flygon he didn't make up his claims. Flygon calls out that he shouldn't have just assumed, and he could have at least tried to give her the chance to prove herself. Keith remains quiet, and Flygon says whatever and gets back to her makeup.
I guess Flygon is right on one thing. Maybe I should have tried to give her a chance at least. But what's done is done, and I still don't know if I can trust her.
I don't want any of these queens to think I'm okay with sabotage. I am okay with it, but I don't want him to think it.
Lee asks Shadow if she can see his concept. Shadow shows her his sketch. Lee tells Shadow she thinks he's on the right track. Shadow thanks her. Lee asks Shadow if he knows what Keith's doing. Shadow tells her Keith told him nothing about his book. Lee admits to Shadow that she's worried about Keith in this challenge. Shadow agrees.
I do believe in Keith's talent, but he's also very quiet. He's already been in the bottom once, and without a win. If he lands in the bottom again, that could be the end of his run. We already lost Akiza. I don't want to lose another member of the Rose Squad.
Hello, Shadow. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for being an amazing judge, Bill. Now, flattery isn't going to win you this challenge.
No, I don't flatter, unlike that blue faker.
Speaking of that blue faker, I just got my copy of Sonic X Shadow Generations. So this game means you and Sonic are coming out as a couple, correct?
He wishes, but I am glad the game is finally out. Sega wouldn't allow me to bring any guns this time.
Now Shadow, you've been in this industry for a while. What has been your favorite project you've worked on?
I would have to say Sonic 06. I got to show my fierceness against Mephiles, and show no one messes with Shadow the Hedgehog. Although Sonic X Shadow Generations is quickly becoming a favorite.
Now let's take a look at your book. It's titled, Shadow the Hedgehog, by Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow, why do you tell me what this book is about?
This book is about my life aboard the Ark, meeting that blue faker, beating up Infinite at recess and stealing his lunch money, and how I choose to move forward in life and let go of all the tragedies that plagued my past. My book is also a memoir to my gun collection. It's arguably my most valuable possession.
Thank you for being here, Shadow.
I wouldn't choose to be anywhere else. Thank you for having me. I feel that interview went well. I did forget to bring up the time I got a silver medal at the Olympic Games, but that doesn't matter. I'm worried for how Keith will do, but I hope he'll surprise us.
Hello, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you nervous?
Usually I'm not the member of the Voltron dynasty who does interviews. But I'm glad to be here. This is a story I'm ready to tell.
Well, it excites me to hear that. As you've heard from me and Blanley, we feel like we haven't gotten to know you as well as some of the other queens in this competition. But I don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
It's not the interview really. I never do this. I never really talk about myself. I'm still figuring it out.
Why do you think that is?
Well, for a long time. It never felt good to talk about it. My life, who I was. Growing up, all I really could focus on was the negative. From a young age I had to learn to fend for myself. My mom left when I was a kid, and when I was barely old enough to even process nothingness. My dad died, and suddenly I was an orphan. The kids at school would pick on me, and then I'd lash out, and then my teachers would write me off because I'd lash out. For a long time I was angry, but I didn't know why. I didn't know how to think about myself or my life without exploding in anger.
Wow, I'm sorry that you went through that. You've truly known darkness.
For most of my life, I have.
So what changed? What led you to this moment here with me?
Love. I met someone who took a chance on me, even at my most unstable. And it saved me from going down a dark path. It led me to learning drag, and the beginning of the Voltron dynasty.
And where are you now? Who is the Keith before me now?
It's been a long journey getting to this point, but I'm at the point in my life where I'm starting to look forward to the future. I've spent a long time consumed by the darkness in my life, but now I am trying to open up and do what I can to help the people around me. I want to enjoy the now, however long it lasts. Because good or bad, I've got a lot of memories to look back on.
Now let's take a look at your book. It's titled, Star Child. What is your book about?
Star Child is about my journey of healing my inner child. It's a story of love, loss, regret, and the importance of growth, even if it's scary. It's so important to find the time to heal and recover from your pain. It's the only way to open a new chapter.
Well said. Thank you for joining me, Keith. Me and Blanley will see you again later on the main stage.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Bill. I feel a little uneasy. I feel a bit exposed, but I think that went well.
Flygon is busy working on her concept. She crumbles up her paper and tries her 12th attempt.
This stupid book concept. I just can't get a simple good idea.
Devin and Mondo are going over each other's concepts. Devin tells Mondo he doesn't understand what his title means. Mondo tells Devin Bill will understand, he thinks. He then tells Devin he thinks he could push his cover a bit further. Devin says he thinks he knows his concept works. Mondo says alright, if you know best.
I consider Devin a friend, but I don't think he's really competition. He doesn't take the swings and challenges that he needs to. I think he may end up in the bottom with Keith if he's not careful.
Hello Devin.
Hey Bill, I'm glad to be here.
How's our redonkulous racer doing?
I'm good, I'm trying to get a win.
Now, you got your start on the redonkulous race. You started dating your ex Carrie on the show, and since then you've talked about how the two of you have broken up. Has that breakup affected the way you look at the race?
Well, it does make me rethink some things. I think I might have jumped into that relationship a tad too soon. I had literally just gotten dumped on the show over a phone call by my other ex, Shelley. She left me for her tennis instructor.
How do you feel about the race now?
It's a TV show. I had fun, but there are definitely things I'd do over.
Let's go ahead and talk about your book. It's titled, A Letter to My Redonkulous Past. What is this book about?
This book is a letter to my past self. It's a guide to all the mistakes I've made and how to correct them.
What do you think someone who reads your book will learn?
I blanked for a moment there. Hope, Bill. Hope.
Well, thank you for joining me, Devin.
Thank you, Bill. I just hope that slip-up doesn't land me in the bottom.
Hello, Mondo. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Bill.
I've always been curious. Why is it that you chose to be the drag biker?
My brother used to be the head of a biker group. Bikes were always a part of my life for a long time. But the biggest reason, a few years ago, my brother passed away in a car accident. Being the drag biker has been a way for me to honor him.
I'm sorry to hear that. Did he know you did drag?
No, I never found the chance to tell him. I don't think he would have taken it too well. But now that he's gone, all I really can think about is all the things he won't be there for.
Now let's talk about your book. It's titled, I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. What is your book about?
So fun fact, the name comes from an inside joke between me and a queen back home, Junko Enoshima. Her nickname for me is Mondo Butter. The book is about my childhood. Discovering my sexuality. Being a part of a biker gang. I hope someone who reads it would take away that things will eventually be okay, even if they're not at the time.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? You know, for the queens back home.
Taka. I'm bringing home the crown.
Thank you, Mondo, for joining me. I will see you with Blanley later on the main stage.
Thank you, Bill. I'm always glad to be here. I have a good feeling about that interview. I think this might be a win for me this week.
Hello, Flygon. How are you?
I'm good, Daddy-O. You know, Bill, you have the best moustache in the business.
Thank you. You know the secret is all about...
Yeah, don't care. My book is about the time I won the Miss Hone flying competition. I beasted everyone, never struggled once.
Wait, hold on. Let's get your book on the screen. It's titled, Desert Storm. Sorry, I'm having difficulty reading your subtitle.
Oh my god, Bill, that was so unprofessional. The Art of Surviving Adversity.
Right, so I wanted to talk to you about how...
Oh my god, Keith's so annoying. I think he's just making up things cause he realized he wasn't getting screen time.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
We're talking about how Keith falsely accused me of sabotage weeks ago. Don't tell me one of our main judges has been sleeping through this competition. I could just see on Bill's face he seemed unimpressed. No surprise he likely is picking favorites.
Well, that's all the time we have. I'll see you later on the main stage with Blanley.
Bye.
Where are we going wrong in the vetting of these Pokemon queens?
Well, now I'm going to be taking my fate into my own hands, because I can't count on these judges to judge fairly.
Mondo and Devin are chatting, as Flygon sneaks into Mondo's workstation. While they're not paying attention, Flygon quickly cuts Mondo's runway outfit. Devon points out Flygon in Mondo's station and Mondo turns around demanding to know what Flygon is doing. Mondo walks over and discovers the cut in his dress. Devon quickly shouts out that Flygon is sabotaging Mondo just like she did to Lance. Flygon tells them they're wrong, and he shouldn't spread lies around. Flygon then blames Keith, saying he put the thought of her being a cheater into their minds. Mondo says he will make Flygon pay for this. Flygon says whatever and flies off.
Whatever, so I snuck off and cut all of Lance's dresses when he was working on something else. That was weeks ago, no one is bringing that flop back right. All that matters is Mondo lands in the bottom with me. I know I can take him out.
Oh, Flygon definitely messed up this time. She got caught. Blanley isn't going to ignore this when they have the footage. That fly is about to be swatted.
Welcome to the main stage of Cartoon Drag Race Toon Madness. I'm your host, Blanley. Please welcome our resident judge, from Inside Out, it's Bill Anderson. Bill, I heard you got to play host for a change.
Wait, play? I thought I was getting your job.
And our extra special guest judge, it's the map. This week our queens were tasked with creating a book, then being interviewed by our very own Bill. Racers, start your engines, and may the best drag artist win. Category is Bugtastic Eleganza. Flygon slayed the runway.
For my Bugtastic Eleganza, I stole this worm dress from a queen back in home. It's a plastic dress molded to look textured after that of an earthworm. I look sickeningly radiant on this runway.
Keith, Shadow the Hedgehog, and Devon had a great runway.
For my Bugtastic Eleganza, I chose to make a gown inspired by the cockroach. I got these long drapey sleeves that look like the wings of a cockroach.
My Bugtastic Eleganza was inspired after the centipede.
My Bugtastic Eleganza was inspired by the praying mantis.
Lee Kanker had a good runway. Owen and Mondo Iwata had a bad runway.
Is it a bad sign that Bill sighed when he saw my bee costume?
I feel so ugly on this runway. Flygon ruined my fit. I had to come up with something from scratch, and I know this cockroach fit looks awful.
Thank you, queens. Your runways are always appreciated. Shadow the Hedgehog. You are safe, you may step to the back. Now let's begin the judges' critiques. We will start with Flygon. Flygon, the next cartoon drag superstar, is not a cheater. For the act of sabotaging other queens in the competition, you will automatically be lip-syncing for your life tonight. Not that you wouldn't have already with this week's god-awful performance. Flygon, you didn't give Bill any space to talk in your interview.
It was just that
No, I am not finished.
Oh, Blanley is pissed. Flygon needs to do herself a favor and shut up for a few minutes.
You completely disrespected Bill in that challenge. And when you disrespect him, you disrespect me. On top of that, you sabotaged a fellow queen. I am very disappointed in you tonight.
Speaking of which, let's talk about your book. This book is it's bad. The pattern is poorly put together, and it doesn't even continue off the page. The colors are just blinding. You can barely see your title. And if you look at the top, one of your heads are randomly blurry. This feels like you just threw it together in 5 minutes and never looked at it again. And as for the concept of your book, I wouldn't buy it. You describe your race as beasting through everyone and never struggling. Something you volunteered yourself since you never let me get a question in. And no one wants to read a book about someone who never struggles or has to grow. This was anything but a good night for you.
Mondo Iwata. First, Mondo, I would like to apologize for the sabotage that occurred on my set that led to you wearing this tragic outfit. So tonight we will focus on your challenge performance exclusively.
Mondo, I feel like I really connected with you during the interview. We got the chance to talk about your brother. I will say as much as I appreciate a nod to the queens back home. I didn't fully get how your title relates to your brand or what the book's about.
Speaking of your book, I love the colors you chose, but I do feel this is a tad basic of a cover for this stage of the competition. I also agree with Bill about the title. I feel there's a disconnect between it and the book's message. That said, I would absolutely buy this. You definitely have a story worth telling. This was a good night for you. Owen.
Owen, can I just say I thought you were a standout in the challenge. You had one of the best interviews. You seem to know exactly what to say to each question, and how to lead it all back to your book. Speaking of your book, I am very impressed by your cover. I do think there's a lot going on with it, but the premise is there. I feel anyone who knows who you are will see this, and they'll just understand what it's about. Which is what you want for this type of book.
All that said, tonight is another night we're left questioning your fashion sense. Owen, it's alright if you're not the fashion queen of the season, but once again we're having issues with your outfits. I feel you could do more for someone who's been in this business for as long as you have. That said, it was a really strong night for you. Lee Kanker. Lee, I have been very impressed with you all season. But even sometimes the best need to get out of their own way.
When an interviewer gives you the chance to be shady, that doesn't mean you throw shade because you can. They're trying to get a story out of you. Now let's talk about your book. I didn't read your brand necessarily as the romance guru. Your book cover is actually on point with what you were going for. But there's a disconnect with you in this genre.
You also managed to torpedo your whole book by mentioning you've never made it past the first date. Lee, I admire the confidence to just proudly state that, but if I want actual love advice, I'm not going to go buy it from someone who doesn't date any more than I'd buy a cookbook written by someone who's never cooked before.
Lee, when I think of you, I think of your power, your charisma. I think of your ability to tell a joke, and tell it like it is. I think of your charm, and the energy you bring to everything you do. Unfortunately, that seemed to be lacking in this challenge.
Keith.
Keith, you came into this interview nervous. Normally that would be a negative, but honestly that made it better. Because you actually went where you needed to, and what conveyed the most is you were telling something raw, something real. Let's take a look at your book. I think you made a great use of the simplicity. Everything is exactly what it needs to be, and it all is conveying so much. I'm getting intrigue, I'm getting suspense. The title alone connects with my senses.
I was a bit worried for you. We've commented before on it feeling like you weren't showing us yourself fully. But now I feel I truly understand you. I love it when a queen surprises me. That's not only how you win this challenge, it's how you win this competition. The true standout for the night, great job.
I agree, great job.
Devin.
Devin, I think we started strong in your interview. You were answering questions honestly. I felt we were getting somewhere. But where I felt we lost you was your book. I feel you had one of the weaker covers of the group. There's nothing immediately bad with it, but there's also nothing that pops out. As for your concept, it felt like it needed to be developed just a bit more.
It's not that your premise was bad, with a little more detail it's a solid concept. I think the issue is you hadn't developed it to the point where you understood what it meant. That's why the question of what is the takeaway from your book threw you off. Everyone on this stage aside from Flygon had a takeaway for their story, something to learn and grow. Perhaps what would have helped is what you've learned about yourself from everything that went down. I've made some decisions. Mondo Awada. Tonight you put the butter in Mondo butter. You are safe. Owen. You conveyed there's so much more to you than just being a total drama winner. Keith. I just couldn't take my eyes off you. Keith. Congratulations, you are the winner of this week's challenge.
I can't believe I just won my first challenge. It was starting to seem like it wasn't going to happen. I hope the other queens now begin to see me as a threat.
And that is another win for the Rose Squad. Good job, Keith.
Lee Kanker. Your unshakable confidence seems to have hindered you in this challenge. Devin. You gave it an 80 when we needed a 100. Devin. You were safe. That means Lee Kanker, Flygon, I'm sorry my dears but you are up for elimination.
Well, I didn't expect to be in the bottom today, but I've worked too hard to leave now. It's finally time someone squashed that bug.
I don't care how many wins Lee has. I am going to win this lip sync, and then I'm going to redeem my image to Blaney.
2 queens stand before me. Ladies, this is your last chance to impress me and save yourselves from elimination. Good luck. And don't fuck it up. The lip sync song is Dancing Queen by ABBA. Flygon had a bad lip sync. Lee flopped the lip sync. I've made my decision. Matt. Lee Kanker, Shantae you stay. Flygon. Sashay away.
Lee, it's very fortunate you had all those wins to lip sync for you.
Back in Untucked. The queens congratulate Keith on his win. Mondo is quiet. Owen asks Keith how he feels now that it's proven Flygon was cheating. Keith says it's sad, because Lance paid the price for it. The queens congratulate Lee on winning the lip sync. The Rose Squad retreats to the other end of the lounge. Mondo says he thought he would have won if it hadn't been for Flygon's sabotage. Devin tells Mondo Blaney was pretty clear in why he didn't win. Mondo sighs and says he's glad that Flygon is finally gone. Lee asks Shadow how he's doing. Shadow admits he's frustrated, as he's safe again. Keith encourages Shadow to keep trying, it's never too late to get a win. Lee reminds Shadow he's never been in the bottom either. Shadow thanks them, and they cheer to the Rose Squad.